What is it like in your brain when you have hobbies? Hey, it's Mikli, and you're listening to Head Time Stories, a podcast exploring what's it like in your brain. Hobbies? Yeah, I've heard of hobbies. I have like 50 of them in my emotional support bag. Let's see what I've got in here. This is the bag I carry with me wherever I go. And I have a backache because, let's see, I have a notebook and fountain pens. I have a camera. I have a portable recorder. I have a pouch that I crocheted, and I have a Kindle. Oh, and I also have makeup. Hmm. I don't think I'm running out of hobbies. And yet, I always love me a new one. You are now listening to my latest hobby, this podcast. And so, it is only natural that right now I am afraid. Chapter 1. Wide eyed, bushy tailed beginnings. I love starting a new hobby. I think if learning things could be counted as a hobby, that would be my top hobby. Like when something is new and still unknown, it's like, there's so much to explore. I am a frequent visitor of the rabbit hole, and I can learn so much so fast about whatever it is that is my interest of the day. I can talk to you, for example, about my Take a Note planner that just arrived from Taiwan. Okay, I have to tell you, this right now, this is like the 70-second take um of me trying to give you an example of me going down the rabbit hole because I kept going down the rabbit hole. And I don't know if you want to follow me there because that it just goes deep. But I was talking to you about my Take a Note planner. So in the previous episode, I was like, I'm on the hunt for a planner, and then I found her, and I found her. Now, if you want to know more about the Take a Note planner, send me a message because I can talk to you about her forever. But this one is, I found her after spending days on Facebook groups and subreddits. Because normally, when it's planner season, you'll see like the big hitters. You'll see like, Hobonichi, Jibun Techo. So she took me a while to find, and I found her, and I love her because of the layout. Where can I geek out about this layout? Can I geek out about the layout here? Real quick, the monthly has space for my due dates and my due dates, and then the weeklies have half a page per day for me to write, which is like, sweet spot. It's not so big. It's not a whole day. I don't know what to do. I can't fill that with my to-dos. I don't have many things to do, but it's also not like a teeny weeny squished little column like it normally is when they try to fit 7 of them in a spread. So, mwah, love her. I did hesitate getting her though because she has Tomo River Sands and paper, and this year people have been complaining about their planners that have the Tomo River Sands and paper because, well, at least in the last couple of years, they've changed the formulation. The old paper was divine. It was so thin and had a shit ton of fountain pen ink, but recently people have been getting ghosting and bleed through. But this year, I think it's extra, at least for me, it's extra, because it's inconsistent. Some people have been getting okay paper. There was somebody on Reddit that I saw who did a review of this Take a Note planner, and all of his fountain pens wrote fine, but some people have been getting shit paper, and I think that might have been what I got because when I tried to write with just a regular gel pen, not even a fountain pen, I'm seeing bleed through on the other side. I don't like it. But it depends. It's not even all the pages. I tried to write lightly. Anyway, that's the rabbit hole. I was like saying it was going too deep, and then I went there again. So thank you for being here. See, that's how I get when I start a new hobby. I'm so excited, and I feel like I'm gonna love this hobby forever. I feel it. But will I though? Because my brain now, after 30 odd years of having hobbies, my brain now knows that even though I feel like this is a thing that's going to last forever, that doesn't necessarily make it true. About 10 years ago, my then boyfriend, now husband, and I took up wall climbing. We were like, okay, let's try to get some exercise in. The gym is boring. Let's try a sport. There's this climbing gym that's just a 5-minute walk away from our office. Let's go. Let's try it. And so we did. Sometimes it takes a while for a hobby to stick. And so we went in there, and in the beginning, kind of like a chore. We were so tired, out of shape. We couldn't climb, just the warm up wall. We had a hard time with that. But later on, especially with the help of the coaches there, we were enjoying. We were doing difficult routes. If a meeting at work was taking long, I was getting antsy because I needed my climbing fix. We got our belay certification. We bought new shoes. Like, we were so into it, and we thought, this is it. We found the exercise that's going to be our exercise. We got fit. We got fit. And we found the exercise that's going to be our exercise. Until my son got sick. Now, it wasn't so serious, but he did have to go to the hospital. And so for a couple weeks, we weren't climbing. So that's break number one. When we returned to the climbing gym after not being there for a while, my husband attempted a move that his brain thought he could do, but his body was like, go up, 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 up. He did a jump. And then I heard a yell. I was lifted off of my feet for a couple seconds because I was belaying him and he was tied to me. And that's because he was falling. I was like, whoa, I caught him. I caught him with my belay and lowered him to the ground. And then he was in pain. Something happened with his knee when he jumped and he was just, it was not nice. And so he couldn't climb for about a month. And I didn't feel like going alone. So I didn't climb for about a month after that. And so that's break number two. After a couple months or so of no climbing, one, we had lost our momentum and we now had to drag ourselves back to the climbing gym where before we couldn't wait to go. And when we got there, we no longer had any endurance, our muscles were so cold, and our coaches made us start back at the beginning. Okay, let's go back to these baby walls. Let's go back to the drills. Before we took our break, I was already doing these fun routes. I was in the middle of one that I was trying to figure out and couldn't get to the top of, and to just be sent back to the tedium of just go up and down this wall again and again and again and again for the next hour. That was my last day at the wall climbing gym. So it's like that sometimes, not all the time, but I can love something. I can really, really enjoy it and think this is it. I've found the one, the hobby, but then I'll lose momentum and it's gone. I can't even bring myself to be interested in it anymore. So that's why I'm afraid. I am enjoying podcasting. This is a medium I really just discovered this year. It's early January. My brain hasn't adjusted to the new year yet. I, of course, meant last year, both as a listener and as a talker. I love it. I've created more in the past 3 months than I have in the past 3 years. No joke. And I'm so afraid that for as much as I love doing this now, is it going to last? And I'm extra afraid because this one has stakes. Well, not head time stories, I suppose, but I'm doing a podcast for work. I'm doing audio courses for my mentorship. What if I lose steam in the middle and I can't bring myself to come back to it? I can feel that I love it, but I know not everything I love stays. Whoa, that one's for my therapist. So now I can't trust myself. Chapter 2. The hobbies and the interest cycle go round and round. But I'm not worried about all of my hobbies because some of my hobbies I have come to discover are cyclical, where I will be interested in them for a period of time and then I will lose interest in them and then I'll be interested in them again. So I'm not worried, for example, about like my stash of yarn in the corner of the room because I know that soon enough, the fountain pen pencil case in my bag is going to be replaced by my crochet needles. I keep my camera in my bag because even though I haven't taken a picture in a while, one day the shutter bug is going to bite and I'm taking pictures of any and everything all over again. So for some of these hobbies, when I lose interest in them, I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried. They're not going anywhere. I have this theory about what's going on in my brain. I think my brain has a sweet spot, a teeny weeny little sweet spot in between novelty and familiarity. And that's where these hobbies live. A hobby has to be new or challenging enough to be interesting. And so I'm into crocheting. I want to learn how to create a stuffed cat. I want to learn how to create a bag. Oh, that's what I did. My last big project was I wanted to create a bag for myself to use at my wedding. And so when I have this challenge in front of me and a whole bunch of things that I don't know how to do, I dive in and I learn as much as I can about them. And I'm doing my crochet. I'm going to the salon. I'm making my bag. I'm going to my parents' house. I'm making my bag. I'm in the car going anywhere and not driving. I'm making my bag. And then eventually that novelty will wear off. I know that when I was making that bag, I was racing against the clock. I have to finish this bag ASAP. Because when that novelty wears off, a fun challenge turns into tedium and I'm going to lose interest again. Now, that's fine if I lose interest again. It was just that I had a deadline, the wedding. And so another hobby takes its place. And that thing is interesting until it's not. But that's okay because I have these old hobbies now that I can choose from. Now, if I choose a new hobby, it's hit or miss because a new hobby will have to always go through the phase where it's fully unfamiliar. And fully unfamiliar is different to my brain than like novel and interesting. Fully unfamiliar is overwhelming. Some hobbies are worth the overwhelm. Some hobbies, my brain are like, nah, no thanks. I don't want to read all of that. I don't want to learn that entirely new language and set of logic. So where does it go? It digs back into the archives for hobbies that have fallen off far enough that they're kind of new again. But then it's still a past hobby, so it's not overwhelmingly new. You get what I'm saying? It's like with these hobbies, with this roster of hobbies that I have, all of them have already gone past the overwhelming, overstimulating, whoa, what is this phase? I know what they are. I know what their languages are. They just have to be far enough away for a long enough time to be considered new again by my brain. Am I explaining this right? And so they hit that little intersection of novelty and familiarity. Familiar enough that I don't have to go through learning it from scratch, but novel enough that, oh, I haven't done this in a whole while. How does this work again? And so I think my brain really enjoys that, and I have my little roster. I have discovered, though, that some cycles are longer than other cycles. And I think it may have to do with how challenging its challenges are. So, let's see, what are my current easy roster? My fountain pens, my crochet, my photography, the notebooks and journaling, those rotate in and out pretty easily, like a couple months each, maybe a few weeks each. Some of them even overlap. But something like the piano, I can tell you when the piano is my current hobby, the way that I engage with the piano is that I will sit down in front of it for hours, 5 hours straight every day, learning a new piece. I took up piano lessons when I was younger, so I know some, but I also quit piano lessons when I was younger, so I don't know a lot. And so I know how to read music, but I'm not fast at it. I'm not intuitive at it. And I can spend months of 5 hours a day just sitting at the piano, sweaty butt marks on the chair, learning how to play Seasons of Love. It takes all of my energy and all of my focus. It is so frustrating because I'm very slow. It's so frustrating. And my own technique too is when I make a mistake, I have to play it from the very beginning. And so that's it. It takes up my entire everything. Then, as I do with my other hobbies, I will lose interest. Normal. But with the piano, when I lose interest, I will lose interest for years. I remember spending the entire summer when I was 11 years old learning fur elise. I think I had another summer when I was maybe about 15 and I had just discovered that you can find sheet music on the internet. So I was learning Only Hope by Mandy Moore. And then And then the next time I was sitting in the chair for hours and hours, I think was in college. And then after that, I can't remember. And it is now 2025. The last time I had my butt in the piano chair and stayed there for hours and hours and hours, I think was 2021 when we bought the piano for our apartment. Like that's it. I can count the times that the piano was my main hobby. And I think that that's due to how intense it is whenever it is my main hobby, how much bandwidth, how much brain, how much energy, how much tolerance for frustration I use up when it is my main hobby. So that's just an interesting tidbit. Not all cycles are the same. But I have taken comfort in the fact that they are cycles. So I do have anxiety about some of these hobbies because I know that some of them just fall off the radar completely and forever. But I also take comfort in the fact that I have hobbies that I am almost quote unquote allowed to lose interest in because I know they're going to come back. Chapter 3. So, what is my thing? This acceptance of the cyclical nature of my hobbies, that's a recent development. I spent practically my entire 20s, some of my teens, some of my 30s, maybe not my 30s, trying to figure out what is my thing? What is the perfect hobby that becomes my thing? Because I never had a thing. I'd blog a bit and people say, wow, you're a writer. Am I? Am I a writer? I take pictures. Am I a photographer? I remember in my mid 20s, I even joined a workshop that was aimed at helping you identify and articulate your thing. Like I was paying to find out what my thing was. That was my struggle for the longest time because I had so many interests and because I would constantly lose interest in my interests. I was never really able to stick around long enough with a hobby to get really, really good at it. I would get pretty good at it pretty fast because when I start, right, I like to dive in head first and rabbit hole. So, but I rabbit hole my way to competence. I rabbit hole my way to above averageness and then I drop off. And so now I have a collection of things that I am average to above average at and nothing that I'm actually great at. There was nothing that I was interested enough in to persevere through it long enough to be amazing at it, the best at it, enough for it to be my thing. But now I'm a little bit older, I'm a little bit wiser, I'm a little less quarter life crisisy, and it took a lot of trial and error and error. But here are where the vibes stand currently. Chapter 4. Where the vibes stand currently. Vibe number 1. Even though I don't have one thing, I've come to realize that what I do have is the ability to combine many things and the ability to see the connections between things. So I do this all the time. My work is on tech and automation strategy, but I talk a lot about designing for the way that you think because the way that people think is an interest of mine. I took up psychology in college and I still use it to this day. People ask who did my website and I'm like, oh no, that's just me messing around with some CSS code that I'm learning. And I get to combine that with being able to write for my website. And I get to combine that with like the puns that I like to make, the silly dad joke puns that I like to make. And I get to combine that with in the back end, the tech that I do. Around thrice-ish now, I've been asked to work behind the scenes on some harm reduction related tech projects. And that's pretty cool because that was my work. Harm reduction was my work for 3 years. So I know enough about harm reduction and I know enough about tech that I'm able to bring the two together in this project. I'm able to bring my understanding of the advocacy into the way that I do my work. So that's kind of exciting for me, being able to live in the nodes in between these interests because I have so many of them. Interests, but I meant nodes. Vibe number 2, I don't ask my hobbies to feed me anymore. So in my grand search of the thing, I would always think of, okay, I can write. Therefore, I must write a book. I can take pictures. Therefore, I should offer photography to clients and so on and so forth with my other hobbies. Like I just offered to be paid for a whole bunch of things. I even had a website. I had a Tumblr blog before that was like Mitli likes to racket. And I was just putting any and everything I could do. I will proofread your thing. I will And then when somebody did take me up on those offers, that's when I learned I don't want to offer them. I was like, I can proofread your work. That's just like reading work. No, it turns out I don't like turning my eyes on when I read. I can write. Oh no, it turns out to be a professional writer. Did you know that to be a professional writer, you have to be able to write on demand? Ew. And it turns out to be a photographer, if you want to take pictures of people, you have to talk to people. Oh my God. And so when I learned that I don't want to do these things, I realized that I can not want to do these things. It almost sounded like, oh my God, Mikli, what are you doing? No. If you can monetize, why won't you monetize? But it was a conscious decision to intentionally shush the part of my brain that instinctively, out of obligationally, tried to monetize everything. Especially since I learned that I was doing it because I felt that I had to and not because I wanted to. So, no, I am not going to ask my hobbies and my interests to feed me anymore. Although, side note, it is a complete mystery to me how tech and automations. I've been doing this for 8 years. That's the longest I've done one thing ever, nonstop. It is a mystery to me how I haven't lost interest, but I am so glad that I haven't because this is the one thing, I guess this is the one exception. This is the one interest that I am asking to feed me and my family. Vibe number 3, maybe my perfect hobby, my thing, is just enjoying whatever is here when it's here. Who said? Whose rule is it that we must have just one thing and one thing only and then love it forever? Me. It was my rule. As a kid, I really thought that was a thing. Like I didn't understand people who could both sing and act. I was like, nah, that doesn't fit right. You must choose one. My hobbies, I'm realizing a lot of things in this episode. I can hear myself say it a lot. I am realizing 3 decades late, but here we are, that my hobbies are for me to enjoy. That's it. They don't have to be anything else. I am, in fact, allowed to simply like things without making them my identity, without making them my thing, without making them my job. They are allowed to, and I am allowed to let them just be. If they're ephemeral, they are ephemeral. If I enjoy this today, I enjoy this today. If I enjoy something else tomorrow, I enjoy something else tomorrow. This may be another one for my therapist, but not everything, Mick, is an obligation. Hobbies don't have to have conditions attached. Oh, you can only enjoy this if you're the best ever at it on your first try? What? Who told you that? Again, me. I told me that. I have to stop telling me things. I'm not obliged to make money from it. I'm not obliged to make the most of it. I'm not obliged to maximize the hobby. I'm not obliged to love it forever. I can simply let in the fun and stop beating myself up when it's no longer fun and use that extra space to welcome in the fun that's on its way. Am I still afraid that I'm going to end up not liking podcasting after some time? A little, yeah. But right now, I'm having fun. And right now, that's all that matters. Now what is it like in your brain when you have hobbies? Are you also a hobby jumper like I am? Are you one of those people that I'm talking about that has one thing? Tell me all about it, please. I want to hear it. If you are on Spotify, I believe you can leave a comment on this episode, or you can jump into the conversation on Instagram at headtimestories.pod. If you want to say hi to me directly, the @ is @HeyMickley everywhere. All right, that is it for this episode of Headtime Stories. I am your host, Mikli. What is it like in your brain? Story time again soon. Bye.